Good morning. Welcome to the 11 a.m. Monday Morning Marketing Webcast. I am your host, Chris Bernard. I hope you had a wonderful weekend. I am going to talk to you about CRM. It seems to be the growing topic last week, not once, not twice, but three times. So I'm actually going to walk through a couple of things. There was a couple months ago now, believe it or not, September, October. There was a Content Marketing World conference in Cleveland, Ohio. And there was a speaker there by the gentleman's name was Kenneth Kinney, a Shark's Perspective AI Media Group. So the topic was how to maximize content to perform like a Salesforce. It was part of the Salesforce concept. He didn't really pitch the specific product Salesforce, but the concept that was there. A couple of things that I noted there at the conference. One of the ones was the big question, right? I see a big white spot in my face because of my notes over here. Big question. They should buy from you because what is your different? In fact, in many cases, our brands, if you ask the actual customers, they have a really hard time, whether it's B2B or B2C, really. They have a hard time differentiating between us and a competitor of ours, sometimes the closest competitor. In fact, in some cases, like that Duracell Energizer Bunny thing, right? That concept is often switched in our mind from vampire creativity. He may mention in here, fear is a good driver of sales, which honestly is a great concept. It's actually a great motivator. Fear and loss. Now, we tend not to want to go down those paths. But at the end of the day, if we have a product or service that's going to help people in their lives, when we talk about fear, we're not talking about like violence or anything like that. We're talking about wasting things of time, money, resources, effort. But we can also talk on that positive side of really bringing value into that. There's a reason why I'm telling you this, by the way. It kind of builds. So just go with me for a little bit. You also have, there you go. Yeah, he mentioned several of those aspects in that. Call to action buttons, well, they're really designed for us to take action. That's something that he had pointed out, Kenneth did in the presentation, that a lot of times these big companies are actually missing. We assume that we're going to see, the call to action occur at the top right or the contact us. And B2B, we often kind of leave the sale hanging. I can't remember the actual statistic, but most salespeople don't ask 3 times. That's one of the rules. Get the no 3 times, but you need to ask for the business. Most salespeople don't even ask for the business 1 time. So again, we're doing the same thing with the websites, according to Kenneth here. Do they believe your social proof? Does your imagery work across all channels? Is it consistent? A lot of times it's a big problem I see is that when we talk about consistency across the sales process, we often see huge gaps, right, in terms of messaging and things like that really need to be considered. Let advertising amplify your marketing. Align your marketing calendar with your advertising calendar. Can't tell you how many times we see this across businesses. Again, there's a reason I'm telling you this, by the way. You need to get rid of those silos. In fact, I think there's a note in here on that one. It may be, I may have already passed it, I don't know. But the concept is to really get rid of the silos. And we'll talk about that in just a moment in terms of how we kind of look at our CRM technologies, right? And even our processes. But get rid of those silos, right? Here's a creative messaging point. Does your imagery point to action? So even like your eyes, right? You often see as you're developing collateral material or support material for the sales teams, consider these kind of things in terms of if you have a piece of content in the middle of the page, you don't want your subject looking away from that piece of content. You want them actually looking at that piece of content, right? That kind of thing. I know it sounds simple, but it has a huge impact in terms of actual performance. Triggers or clicks. Are your employees engaged, right? Trying to figure out, get your employees excited about the business, excited about what they're doing there. Hopefully that's part of your hiring process, to be honest with you. Oh, here it is. Get rid of the silos. And I have like 18,000 exclamation points before that. Measure a team, and that's actually the key takeaway point. Measure a team as a team sport, right? What is the goal? and then measure across all channels. Share your calendar, you're creating movement and trust. Content has to align with channels. Okay, so the big one there is get rid of the silos. Okay, that's actually probably the big one. And then the second one would be really keeping everyone on the same goal. So last week, two things occurred, and they were actually from two different clients. So big takeaway, right? We're interviewing the marketing director at a company, and she was sharing with me their structure, right? The RSM. There's 5 regional sales managers, and they report to a director of sales, and then he reports, and it was a he, reports directly to the owner of the business, which is fantastic and fine. And the owner of the business name was Stuart, right? So I basically asked the marketing director, I said, so after all of this discussion and understanding your structure, what is Stuart's pain point? What does he want the most? What keeps him up at night? What is he focused on driving, right? And she was able to specifically identify a very specific product that they wanted to push and how they wanted to see that product's success evolve, right? So basically within that, I'm able to align then all of the details around that CRM. So when we think about a CRM tool, one of the things that we were talking about last week, not in this video, but just as in terms of a client, you need to make sure you understand the process. So like in this specific case, the leads come in, they come into the funnel via online initiatives. They get directed to one of these 5 regional sales managers, right? And then the question becomes, what do they do with it? Because we're measuring how they come in, right? We're measuring how they come in, and we're trying to get to the performance on the outside. But basically, we consider a lead a score, a win, right? And as long as they're a lead, that's great. The marketing drove what it needed to. It paid for itself because we're converting at X dollars in terms of estimates and all that. But literally, it gets really fuzzy after that, right? Because it's accountable. So one of the things that we were thinking of is if they come in, how is it determined? I mean, the question, even if you assume, how is it determined which of these 5 get that lead, right? In their case, it's actually geography. It's designed by states. And that's probably not an uncommon situation for a lot of these B2B companies. So the question then becomes is, okay, so what happens then? And that's what the response was. You don't really know. They just go off. So understanding, all right, so you just had something come in and you just threw it out that way, but there's no follow-up in the system to kind of close the loop. So again, you had these marketing initiatives that drove this lead. I'll call it a lead, right? You can see that screen, right? So you had these marketing initiatives that drew this lead where you spent like hard-earned dollars to drive to an actual lead. In some cases, in this case, we have phone calls that are being tracked. Phone calls that are being tracked, as well as actual form leads, right? So I'm just going to kind of bring those two things together. And then they go off into one of these 3, 4, and then 5. These salespeople, right? So you get these sales guys. And forgive me, they're all guys, okay? This is a old school kind of B2B kind of situation. Those are supposed to be people, by the way. Thank God for creative teams. But then it goes off into Never Land. And really what ends up happening is there's 2 things that are going on with this. These actually, they have 2 ways of kind of doing it. One that's actually, both of them actually convert into actual dollars. So I'm going to say process 1 and process 2, right? So they have 2 ways of kind of monetizing this. One of them is like an internal situation, and one is an external situation. So think of this as, okay, I qualified them, I got the lead, and actually really there's a third where they kind of die on the vine. So basically like the old grave site, RIP, right? So there's 3 different kind of options. They can end up in an internal sale, right, directly to the company. It can be passed on as a referral, or it can simply die. Those are the three options. Okay. Well, there's a lot to be said for, okay, we spent the money, you got the lead, you gave it to the person, and then it kind of right now kind of dies off. Well, a CRM can help us with this on several fronts. Okay, so first of all, with these, so when they submit the lead, I can now tie this back to actually marketing dollars, right? Which in the CRM, which we're kind of doing now, but not as cleanly as we could. Okay, when I talk about CRMs, we're talking about like HubSpot, Salesforce, there's Pipedrive, there's several of these CRMs that are available out there that allow you to track leads through the funnel and through conversion, and then even market to those leads on both sides. So like in this case here, again, money spent, lead comes in, it's all being tracked now. When they submit this lead form, make a phone call, okay? It can now, as the regional sales manager, right? That's these guys. As a regional sales manager, I now have telemetry. I know which pages they visited on the website, right? I know what they were interested in. I know if they bought before. See all these things that are really, really kind of cool that we can do something with? I see what parts of the country that maybe that they're in, so that maybe there's suggested product or even different pricing, right? Because there's certain requirements for certain product specs and things like that. All that can be brought into that dashboard for the salesperson, okay? Now, that's going to help lift these two things, right? Because right now they go into these three buckets and they die. Well, put simply, in the cleanest situation, the CRM is able to measure these, right? And now can bring that back to this over here. Say, okay, well, that specific keyword initiative or that social media campaign, that drove that sale, right? So it ends that problem of spending more of this, right? Because I know. It's 17 times more. We do know that it's 17 times more cost effective to retain a current client than it is to get a new one. However, this can help increase that loop, right? All right, so CRM1, option 2, option 3. Now, hopefully with that CRM, because I've given these RSMs more data and information, this goes up. This actually can still go down, okay? But this could be up or down potentially, but all intents and purposes, assuming I have this better telemetry, I should even be able to increase that, right? In terms of the impression, the overall impact in terms of sales. So average order size goes up, and increase in everything really goes up just with that. And I can, and where it's coming from is this right here. Because I understand the client better, right? As a salesperson, I'm able to get these to bump up. And hopefully this goes down. Now, this going down doesn't necessarily mean that it's not the right time. We can do something with it. So we can market to these people now, right? In a way that, whether that's a regular drip program, I'll just say drip program, but a regular drip program, giving them some information, news to help them understand how I'm doing. It can also do follow-up. Okay, I say F up. It's not F up as in like mess up, but follow up in terms of, let's say every quarter, if they're on that cold list, right? You can follow up with them quarterly, monthly, and it can go ahead and send an email out to that prospect and say, it can do a little bit of the homework for you. Are you still interested? We've got these kind of things going on right now. You might want to know about that. If they take action on it, it can inform the salesperson, automatically. If indeed it goes out, it can go out like the week before. The salesperson can do a pre-call or a post-call follow-up, right, to that piece going out or that email going out. And it does it automatically. That's the beautiful thing about a CRM. Okay. Now, I want to tell you something. These people here, we love them dearly. They are the lifeblood of the company, but they are often compensated by sales. So we in marketing, we've been constantly trying to throw more crap in their path, right, for detail and analytics and all that stuff in order to improve, performance on the back end. But these people are often resistant of such things. So not once, not twice, but 3 times last week, the insight came is I am not calling this CRM. I talked to these people, the salespeople. We're calling that inbound marketing system or inbound sales system or technology or inbound sales, right? Whatever the case may be, because they don't want to do, and rightly so, they don't want to do work that doesn't contribute to that for them. They're not incentivized by those things. I mean, they're incentivized by dollars, not your work, okay, in terms of making them fill out sheets. So that is, again, one of the beauties of a CRM system, guys and gals, is it allows for a lot of these things to be automated that you don't have to do. And the benefit to these people, your sales teams, again, lifeblood of the company, is that. That's what they care about. Now, estimates last week, if we were to do just this simple process, my expectation to them is I could double their sales and they would be doing less work. Did you hear me? We could double their sales and they would do less work. Less work. That's the benefit of CRM. Okay. So some companies need help with this. Some companies need help kind of mapping that stuff out, right? Figuring out how that works, and by the way, overcoming obstacles, doing that deep dive with the consulting, with the sales teams, being a third party that understands their perspective can often help with that. This is not an evaluation of their job, just to improve their job performance. Everybody wants to do less work and get more benefit from it so they can focus on doing things that add greater value, okay? That's one of the reasons why God designed us. Use our talents and skills better. So this CRM would allow for those kind of things. The term CRM needs to be often banned for RSMs because it doesn't necessarily help. It confuses them and it's an away response. So CRM can be an awesome thing to do, but again, you may need help in implementing that, coming up with the structure of your systems, to sit down with your sales teams and say, what's working, what's not, who are we trying to target, what are their apprehensions? Maybe we can build some things online that allow them to, basically allow them to overcome those obstacles, or checklists that allow them to, print off that they can actually carry around with them if that's something they actually do or their customers would, so that we can kind of control and provide information that allows the customer to see why we are better by asking good questions of our competitors. Say, look, we're better for X, Y, and Z things, and we're going to make sure that they're aware of that. So the best thing to do is educate your prospect so that when they do call your competitors, you're the advanter. You're the advantagee. That'd be the right word? So advantagee. I don't know, the recipient of that prospect, earned recipient of that prospect. So if you need help with that, we can certainly make that available for you. All right, simple consult, 15-minute consult. We can kind of talk about those problems and kind of get to the bottom of it. If we need to go deeper into that conversation, that's absolutely fine. In many cases, as you may have guessed, there's a lot of moving parts to this thing called sales. So, whether that's a short-term engagement or a more long-term engagement that requires not just sales implementation and CRM implementation and fact-finding, but also that long-term support of those teams so that you're driving inbound leads, we can certainly do that. So I hope that was helpful. That is a topic that literally, real time last week, not one, not two, but 3 times, 3 times came out last week. In terms of sales, CRM. So just some helpful tips for you. I hope you have a blessed Thanksgiving week. Enjoy family, enjoy friends, and be nice to each other. We have a lot to be thankful for. All right. I wish you the best. Have a great, great week, and we'll talk to you next week. Thanks so much for joining me this morning.